Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another video. The month of August is drawing to a close, and you know what that means. Yes, it means that Gamescom came and went, which is the reason I've been gone for about a week. It was an absolutely great time, I had a lot of fun, played a lot of games, and saw a lot of people cosplaying their favorite characters. Oh, and apparently I inadvertently caused the rise of a ritualistic cult that is hell-bent on sacrificing me to the elder gods just so that they can get a release date. More on that later. We're going to go in and take a look at my experience playing these demos and maybe help give you an idea if you should be looking forward to any of these titles. Spoiler alert, I'm pretty sure there's something here for everyone. Let's get right into it because there are a lot of games to go through. We're starting off with Pragmata. We were able to play a short 20-minute demo, which I assume is from the very start of the game. I skipped the cutscenes in the interest of time, so no spoilers here. Immediately, we are thrust into combat against a robot. Problem is, this robot is insanely tanky and the gun we have is incredibly inefficient at dealing with this threat. The blonde girl joins the fight and reveals her powers of hacking, which cause the enemy robot to overload, revealing the weakness underneath their armored plating. Combat pacing is rather slow, but that is not a detriment to the game. It is in fact a highlight. The main character is a guy in a spacesuit. His movement is on the heavy side. The only momentum he can get is when he is assisted by the thrusters in his suit, which also enable him to dodge. Weapons are almost useless by themselves and have severely limited ammo. However, they are powerful tools when used in tandem with hacking. You're not encouraged to spray and pray here. The focus is on positioning and making tactical decisions that put you at an advantage by exploiting enemy weaknesses. Sure, you can just fill an enemy full of lead, but you'd be much better served if you tangle enemies so that they don't move, hack them to reveal their weaknesses, and target that weakness with a devastating shotgun blast. Hacking will be an integral part of Pragmata and rather easy to pull off, only asking you to make your way to the goal while passing through the blue nodes. I'm sure that hacking will introduce new mechanics to intensify the challenge as you progress, as shown by the addition of a new node that would weaken enemy defenses even more if you pass through it. I was very pleased with the demo experience, the controls were tight and responsive, and performance wasn't an issue. This is definitely a game I'm adding to my wishlist. Duet Night Abyss. Now, I managed to play this while there wasn't a queue for it. This is anime Warframe, and of course I'm going to make sure to judge it accordingly. Straight from the get-go, movement was lacking. Whether you're bullet jumping or aiming mid-air, it all just felt slow. Ranged weapons felt like pea shooters for all the good that they did, and I had a much better time dealing damage with my melee weapons. When shooting is a major feature of your game, I think it would do well for it to feel satisfying. There was no problem with weapon and character variety. One of the weapons I managed to try out was a flamethrower, which looked cool to use even if it wasn't doing much. The characters all have unique designs and look great with high quality models for both male and female characters. The ratio is still in favor of female characters because of course it is, it's a gacha game, but it looked like this one had more men available than what you would expect from Withering Waves or Zenless Zone Zero. Overall, my verdict for this one is I left the booth feeling unimpressed, but I am going to give it a shot when it comes out to make sure I can properly experience the game in its fully released state. Onimusha Way of the Sword is by far the best demo I have played in my first day of Gamescom 2025. I was hoping to get an experience that brings me close to Sekiro's combat, and I was satisfied. The demo I played allowed me to go through a ruined temple in the forest. I fought some generic foot soldiers, parried my way through their attacks, and executed anyone whose stagger bar I had depleted. Controls are easy and smooth. Parrying was satisfying with generous timing, though my own attacks felt just a bit slow, but not annoyingly so. In my eagerness to make good use of the limited time I had, I didn't get to check if there are any combos that mix both one-handed and two-handed attacks. Your normal abilities are complemented by a third yokai weapon that you can only use when the meter fills up by engaging in combat. There were two extra abilities that I could make use of. One was another meter that when filled up made my sword glow, enhancing my attacks, while the other I didn't get the chance to experience. When it comes to boss fights, however, we're back to parry dancing the boss until we wear down their stagger bar and stun them, which allows us to trigger a powerful attack where you can select from two weak spots. One deals insane damage, while the other allows you to earn a large number of souls. I'm eager to pick this one up as I really love the focus on parrying, and as I said before, it's the closest thing I'm ever going to get to playing a new Sekiro. This next title is based on the Honor of Kings MOBA. This 3D action anime RPG actually surprised me in multiple aspects. First off, what instantly stands out is the aesthetic. While I am not generally a fan of this type of settings, my jaw hit the floor when I saw the art direction. Everything from the world to the characters looks extremely polished, extremely attractive, and highly detailed. The cinematics, both pre-rendered and in-game, are breathtaking, leaving you in awe with their over-the-top spectacle. I can't say much about the story because of the time limit and all that, but the combat, however, is something else entirely. In terms of gameplay, we have an open world much like Genshin Impact and Withering Waves, but the character combat design takes it a step further than either of the two. Each character has 3 abilities and an ultimate, and there's also a monster that you can summon. The interesting aspect is that there is quite a lot of complexity with the character kits. On the easier side of things, there's the Devourer, who can throw a disc at the enemy, hit them with an enhanced sword attack, or parry the enemy attacks and hit them with a counterattack. But that is not all. The disc you throw with your first ability will return to you eventually, and if you time it right, you can parry the disc and counter for more damage. Another character is a caster and focuses on summoning orbs on the battlefield, creating a field that gathers enemies and orbs, which she then detonates, and entering an enhanced state that allows them to summon even more orbs. On the harder side, there's the Shining Star, who has so many combo variations among their 3 skills that enumerating them all here would take too much time. Just know that he can freely mix his abilities in such a way that he can teleport around enemies, launch them in the air, and juggle them for around 10 seconds straight while dealing damage. This game made me feel like it will reward player skill expression much more than any gacha game on the market. Honor of Kings World shot up from a title that I wasn't interested in to a title that I will pay close attention to in the future. Ah, the gacha game that has its community locked in a vice grip. Nobody knows the actual release date, but if my little interrogation at their absolutely awesome booth is to be believed, we should be seeing a release date sometime this year. Note that the key words are should be. This is something that I cannot state enough. I already made a post on Twitter stressing that this isn't in any way confirmed, and now I have people willing to sacrifice me in a blood ritual if Endfield doesn't come out in 2025. But what about the game? Well, the game feels good to play, but that's pretty much it. I can't really bring any new information that you don't already know, because the build they had at the booth was the one without the dodge changes that were shown at China Joy. And because of this unfortunate circumstance, I can't even form an opinion on whether these changes were good for the game or not. Trust me, I'm just as disappointed as you are, if not more. I did like going through the tutorial though, as it is a highly cinematic experience with great music, but other than that, the combat is pretty much still the same. Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to shore up my defenses for when the cult decides to lay siege to my home. Next up is Phantom Blade Zero. I am so happy I was able to play this demo again. The downside, however, is that I had to wait 4 hours to try it out, but I had a full hour with the game, allowing me to fully experience an entire level. Exploration is very much what you would expect from a Souls-like, as you go around finding secrets, traps, ambushes, and shortcuts as you make your way towards your main objective, fighting enemies along the way. The main feature here is the lack of a stamina system that allows you for a cinematic and free-flowing combat style that focuses on swordsmanship, parrying, and dodging. Combos feel insanely good to pull off, and sometimes you feel like an unstoppable killing machine, especially when you break the stagger bar of multiple enemies and trigger a brutal chain of executions going from one enemy to the next. Boss fights are insanely fun, and good use of your combos and abilities can see you almost stun locking a boss and extending your damage window to frankly disgusting degrees. You have a wide variety of weapons at your disposal, each with their own unique combos and abilities, as well as special weapons that can be used with a consumable resource to deal devastating axe attacks or charge up a powerful bow shot. It's fluid, it's acrobatic, it's dark, and it's brutal. Phantom Blade Zero maintains its spot as one of my must-plays in the future. Ninja Gaiden 4. This had a very short demo, so my thoughts will be just as short. The game allowed me a bit of exploration, showing off the main character's agility and wall-running capabilities as I was able to grapple up to specific points in the area. There were a few fodder enemies that I was able to easily dispatch by button mashing, culminating in needlessly brutal and hateful executions. Don't get me wrong though, I'm not complaining about the gore, but as I was triggering these executions, I just sat there thinking like, damn bro, what did these guys ever do to you to deserve that? The demo ends with a boss fight against cybernetic samurai that actually killed me twice, something that no other demo was capable of doing. So I decided to switch my approach from button mashing to more hit and run tactics, focusing on just hitting 2 or 3 attacks and then waiting to dodge when an attack was coming. The boss is capable of using powerful attacks marked by a red danger symbol that you can interrupt if you enter Raven mode and use your enhanced attacks to knock him out of it. There are many techniques and combos you can pull off, all of them stylish, all of them satisfying, and most likely all of them requiring you to put in a bit of effort to learn. I guess this type of combat is much more fitting for the theme of a ninja, if I'm being honest, though I do wish I had more to sink my teeth into, as I feel like there's so much more for me to uncover about this game. Still, I'm definitely giving this game a shot when it's coming out, especially since it's coming out on Xbox Game Pass as well. Also, I really need to know what Yakumo's beef is with these samurai. Now we're getting into something that I am really hyped for. Valor Mortis is a game that I need more of. From the developers of Ghost Runner comes this new FPS. No, this is not a first-person shooter, but a first-person Souls-like. You will take on the role of a fallen soldier in Napoleon's army that is freshly risen from the dead. Your comrades have lost their sanity, however, and attack you relentlessly. Valor Mortis has a dark setting, choosing to depict the act of war like the hellscape that it is, with mountains of corpses littering the battlefield wasteland. In the demo, I was able to play around with the sword, the main weapon at your disposal, as well as the pistol and a Bioshock-esque ability that empowered me to spew fire at my enemies. It's really fun, but I got lost along the way and got killed by an optional boss one too many times, which didn't leave me with too much time to fight and kill the main boss of the demo. I did get close to killing him, so there's that, at least. It really stays true to the idea of a first-person Souls-like, because anything you can expect from a Dark Souls or Sekiro in terms of level design, you can definitely find here. There's also the stagger bar that can obviously be chipped away at with attacks, and absolutely obliterated if you're good at your parry game. I was already sold on the first-person Souls-like idea after having played Witchfire, so Valor Mortis is an easy pickup for me. I can't wait until I get my hands on this game again. The Silksong is real! I had the chance to play the demo for a good 20 minutes, and honestly, it's more Hollow Knight. Hornet is much more acrobatic than the titular knight, however, which can be seen in her moveset with how she sprints and how some attacks send her vaulting over her enemies. Sadly, a lot of her moveset was locked in the demo, so I couldn't experience too much, but I'm sure there are many things you can unlock during your playthrough, as this is still a Metroidvania after all. The world is still beautiful in its dark, cavernous, yet charming way, and some enemies are actually really cute and will make you feel like a monster for hurting them. If you have enjoyed Hollow Knight before, there is no reason whatsoever to not like Silksong, unless you got bored of waiting for so long. Then I completely understand. Cronos The New Dawn is a third-person survival horror game, much in the same venue as Dead Space or Resident Evil. The game has you playing as the Traveler, an enigmatic entity that is traveling through time to save key people from a cataclysmic event called the Change. The Change brought about indescribable monstrosities of pungent flesh and sharp bone blades, which will serve as the main force you will have to fight against. The monsters can be killed, but they are durable and many, while you are alone and your weapons are limited by their slow fire rate and the little ammo you're able to scavenge from among the ruins. You will have to be clever about your engagements and positioning, as getting overwhelmed is extremely easy within the claustrophobic rooms and hallways you'll have to move through. I never thought this game was going to be capable of making me feel isolated in an expo hall full of people, but it did, and I was paranoid throughout my entire demo playthrough, as the incredible sound design made me feel constantly surrounded. My weapons, while powerful, had to be carefully managed, as every bullet counts and could be the difference between victory and a brutal death. Simply killing enemies will not be enough, however. Their remains, while harmless by themselves, could still pose a threat if any of the still living enemies decide to merge with them. Basically, they devour the corpses and inherit the abilities of the deceased, becoming a much stronger and much more dangerous threat. Your only hope in this situation is fire. For a very limited number of times, you can cover the ground in napalm, burning enemies around you and staggering them just enough to create some breathing room, but it will also completely burn away any enemy remains, eliminating the threat of merging entirely. This forces you to make carefully weighed decisions of whether you want to keep your precious few napalm canisters as a tool to create some space for you to maneuver in, or as a tool for making sure they never get the chance to evolve. Exploration will have you carefully creeping through surreal and oppressive environments, searching for scraps and ammo to pick up and use in your struggle against the monsters. The Fabricator will be your best friend in this endeavor, as you can craft much needed resources through it, provided you have enough scraps. Definitely pick this one up if you want to feel like the odds are severely stacked against you. Resident Evil 9. This game was hell when it came to waiting in queue to get the demo. The line was always packed with people and had to be closed off multiple times throughout the day, as there were just too many people who wanted to try it out. Some even waited over 5 hours to get in. I was lucky enough to think of checking on the queue close to the end of Friday and found it not only open but with a decent queue size. Once I got there, I immediately got thrown into the suspense playing as Grace Ashcroft. The demo starts off with her tied to a bed upside down and having her blood harvested for whatever reason. She finds a way to escape and makes her way through the dark hallways of the house she is being kept in. And when I say dark, I mean dark. There were very few sources of light and I could barely see anything. Thankfully, I was able to find a lighter, which wasn't the best, but definitely better than nothing, as I could at the very least get my bearings with it. Wasn't soon after that I encountered this game's stalker monster, which promptly hunted me throughout the house. Luckily, light seemed to be its weakness, as I discovered after returning to the room I started the demo in. As is tradition for Resident Evil games, you'll have to balance survival with puzzle solving. Your exploration will have you picking up key items, figuring out what they're used for, and bringing them to the required point of interest. I wasn't able to finish this demo, sadly, as my fear of proceeding through the darkness kept fighting with my brain, which was constantly telling me to hurry up because I'm under a time limit. But that in and of itself is testament enough to the atmosphere it was able to create for me in a short demo playthrough. I felt helpless, which was a feeling further cemented by the lack of any sort of weaponry or defensive capabilities against the stalker. Your one and only option, at least for this part of the game, was to run for your life and pray that you could get away. The game also lets you change your perspective from first person to third person, but not without it telling you that the game was designed for first person. Resident Evil 9 just really wants you to know that it's here to scare you, and the best way for it to do that is if you don't have the faintest clue of what's happening around you. I don't think I need to try to convince anyone that they should give this game a try after the mountain of people that have queued up for the demo. You already know you need to play this. Neverness to Everness is currently the open world anime gacha game that is suspected to release close to the end of 2025. It is highly anticipated due to its anime GTA aesthetic, allowing you to drive around cars in a fully explorable city. I tried out the game for myself, and the thing that immediately stood out to me was that it felt much better to play than I initially expected. The characters look great, and they have some interesting abilities that they can use while implementing the tried and true formula of 4-character quick swap teams. I used the 15 minutes given to me to try out a bit of exploration, and I'm very surprised to say that on-foot traversal feels unexpectedly slow. On the combat side of things, I went out in search of bosses, and this allowed me to fight a giant fox boss, the Dullahan riding a motorcycle, and a random possessed pickup truck. Combat is exactly as you'd expect. You use your character's combos and skills to build up enough energy and unleash an ultimate, then swap out to the next character in the rotation. If you've played Genshin Impact or Withering Waves, then you already have a good idea of what this feels like to play. It seems like a lot of work went into not just making the game feel good to play, but also look good. Whenever I triggered a quick swap ability, the attack was much more cinematic, giving me a close-up dynamic shot of the action. If you think you can handle adding another gacha to your daily rotation, then try this out for yourself. Who knows, maybe it'll completely replace one of them. God Save Brimingham is such an unexpected title. It came out of nowhere with a premise that makes sense, but somehow nobody's ever thought to put it into action. This is a third-person survival horror simulator with crafting elements. The entire populace has been turned into zombies, and you're the only surviving human. You'll have to go out into the world searching for food and water, as well as other supplies that will help you craft not only better gear, but also other useful implements that will keep you safe. For example, you're going to need a lot of wood to be able to craft a cooking station and barriers to keep the zombies out. You'll need to manage hunger, thirst, exhaustion levels, and injuries like bleeding or sprained ankles that will impact your efficacy, all while fending off the zombie hordes. While they might be slow, they are numerous, and getting overwhelmed is extremely easy. You will have to be careful with your approach, and you will also want to keep an eye on the time of day, as getting caught out in the dark will severely drop your chances of survival. survival. The best choice is to head back to your secure home to sleep once the night is creeping in. In case you haven't noticed yet, this is a very slow game, even slower than Cronos or Resident Evil. There are progression systems in this game, though I wasn't able to test them out properly. From what I've been able to see, there is a proficiency system that will level up the more you use certain items and weapons. So if you use a spear enough times, you will become more proficient with spears in general. Still, I wasn't able to notice a difference in the demo, so I can't rightly say what benefits you get from increasing your proficiency. I'm also not sure about the game's story, as the demo did not present me with any sort of narrative. The developers have mentioned that they are planning to add some very light narrative elements as well as a campaign later down the line. How exactly these ideas will be implemented and what it will mean for the game in the end, only the future can tell. I am tempted to try Save Brimingham out, but I can definitely see this game's slow pace becoming an issue the longer I play it. I hope that the progression systems will increase the speed at which we are able to play, much like what was done with Subnautica. Crimson Desert. Crimson Desert is a very complicated game. At least that's the conclusion I have come to from playing the demo. The game throws so many tools and mechanics in your face and then yells at you to handle it as it literally kicks you off a cliff and into the action. I get that there are way too many mechanics to go over in a tutorial, and showing all of that alone in a demo would take 20 minutes, but damn! I was very confused regarding what my character was capable of. He had a sword and shield, but also a spear. He could fire a bow and arrow, but also wields magic. Blocking didn't really feel like blocking, and I wasn't sure if there was a parry timing that I could aim for. There were many moves that the character could pull off, but I had no idea how. All of this made for a rather frustrating experience, especially once I reached the boss of the demo, where I spent way too long fighting him without feeling like I was making any headway, since the boss was capable of healing. Of course, I'm well aware of the fact that this frustration is born of my own lack of understanding of the game's mechanics and is not in any way the fault of the game itself. I'm sure once I go through the intended introductory experience when the game launches, all of that will change. Now, what about the demo? Well, the demo thrusts us into a quest where we're preparing for an all-out war. We talk with a few NPCs, repair a cannon, and then fire it at a few towers to bring them down. Then the war actually begins, and I have to say it is wild how many NPCs are present on the battlefield duking it out. In fact, there are too many to the point where even the game itself encourages you to skip past the waves of enemies so we can reach the objective. We stop by a few allied camps where we place a flag, get a breather, and even stumble upon a conflict between allies that directs us towards a hostage that we must rescue from an empty camp. The battlefield is littered with skirmishes, but we end up attacking the enemy camp by ourselves, eliminating the enemies and saving the hostage while blowing up their stockpile of gunpowder. Things take a turn for the worse when we receive news that a traitor has attacked our main castle. We make our way there, meet up with a few allies, and take the traitor on alone. I wasn't able to finish the fight, however, due to my lack of understanding of the game's mechanics. Apparently, I was supposed to stun the enemy and pick up a rock pillar and hit him with it, but the process of lifting it was so slow, I never actually got the chance. I think there was only one instance where I managed to pick it up properly and saw some of the inputs flash on the screen for a second, then disappeared and never showed up again afterwards. No, wait, I figured it out. After I picked up the pillar, I was supposed to aim at the stunned boss, and that would have allowed me to hit a button and trigger the attack. Yeah, that's the same mechanic I had to use for placing flags, and I had no clue that was also usable in combat. My ineptitude with the combat aside, the game is beautiful and completely sold me on the medieval atmosphere. This is one of those games where manly men do manly things and warriors battle in brutal fashion. A lot, and I do mean a lot, of characters are voiced here, even for something as menial as raising a flag. Since this is a demo, there is a chance that it's just a vertical slice, but I have a feeling that Crimson Desert will be able to deliver this high level of quality across its entire length. Greymane, your main character, feels like a combination of Aragorn and Legolas. He's this no-nonsense badass whose heart seems to be in the right place. That doesn't mean he'll shy away from doing what is needed, as can be seen in all of his brutal attacks. He holds nothing back when it comes to fighting, and he always aims to kill. Crimson Desert is definitely on my list of games to pick up, and I can see myself spending a lot of time in the tutorial area to make sure I understand how to play this game properly. Dying Light the Beast is the latest entry in the Dying Light series that wants to slightly shake up things. Dying Light was always about a zombie infestation that you have to survive against while engaging in fast, freeform parkour to get around and scavenging supplies to craft deadly implements of evisceration. You play as Kyle Crane, the protagonist of the original Dying Light game, except this time around, he's out for revenge. After his escapades in the original game, Kyle was captured and experimented on by an enigmatic figure called the Baron. These experiments left Kyle with what is now called Beast Mode, an enhanced state where Kyle hulks out and bashes anything that moves to a bloody pulp with enhanced strength. Throughout the game, you'll be running around town, putting your parkour abilities to good use. Taking to the rooftops is a great way to increase your chances of survival since the streets are crawling with the undead. You will have to drop down eventually as quests and loot will be found below. While your main objective is finding the Baron and tearing him limb from limb, you'll also team up with other survivors that will require your help but will also help you in return. Exploration is extremely satisfying as you leap from rooftop to rooftop, bashing zombies and making it a quick getaway. The game encourages constant movement, so you'd better start running circles around those zombies and take advantage of your swiftness. Don't stay out for too long, however, as getting caught outside in the dead of night will put you at a severe disadvantage. Stronger and faster zombies pop out in the dark that are not just capable of keeping up with your free running antics, but can even catch up to you. If you have to go at night, then you better be extra careful and don't let them spot you. The demo didn't really feel like a demo from my experience. It mostly felt like they just gave me the full game, set a timer limit for 15 minutes, and told me to go wild in that sandbox. And that I did. I ran around feeling nigh unstoppable while parkouring, and even took down one of those big zombies with a giant club. You don't really get to control when beast mode happens, which I assume is on point with the theme they're going for, but I would really appreciate having a say on when that happens. As the mechanic is now, you just fight as you would normally and the beast meter fills up. Once it's full, beast mode is automatically triggered even if there's no one left to use it on. The only thing you can control is when it ends, which will not consume the beast gauge completely and will save you around 30 to 40% of it. I might actually pick this up as it's been a while since I've played an FPS parkour game, but I will have to catch up with previous entries first, as I've only ever played the first Dying Light. And with that, we come to the end of my experience with Gamescom. Of course, there were a lot of games that I didn't get to because that would make this video even longer, but I do want to put some honorable mentions here without going too much into detail. First off, we will start with two games that I'm very much looking forward to, those being Little Nightmares 3 and Reanimal. These two games have you playing as two small children that need to work together in an oversized nightmarish world full of monsters that are out to get you. These play very similarly, if not exactly the same, as Little Nightmares 1 and 2, where your only hope for survival is to run away from anything that's trying to sink its claws into you. Another fun-looking game is Densha Attack, or Train Attack, an incredibly crazy ride through a bombastic and stylish world where you control a train and perform all sorts of tricks while fighting oversized mechs. None of this makes any sense to me, but I absolutely love it. Lastly, I'll mention Fractured Blooms, a game that looks like a walking simulator but is in fact a farming and cooking sim mixed with eldritch horror elements. Here you'll have to manage your garden, cook food for yourself, and do your chores while leaving you enough time to get some good sleep. The anomalies happening around the house might get in the way of that, however, as strange creatures make their appearance, forcing you to find ways of avoiding their gaze. Figure out what is wrong with this house before the house figures you out and devours you. And with the honorable mentions done, we come to the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed the ride. Whether it's through watching the video or following my ramblings on Twitter, I appreciate all of you. So what are your thoughts on this year's Gamescom? What are the titles you're most excited for? Was there a game that you would have liked to make an appearance but didn't? Leave your thoughts in the comment section down below, and if you've enjoyed my content, please leave a like and a sub to help me out with the algorithm. That's gonna be it for me, and I will see you in the next video. Until then, have a good one.